Hello everyone, welcome to Python Basics Part 2, and in this particular section I'm going to discuss these topics. First, I'll start with the setting up of Python interpreter and virtual environment using PyCharm. So I have shown you a high level Python overview, but I did not do any environment or project setup. So that is something that we'll do now. Then I'll talk about a very important function, which is print, because print will be used in almost all the hands-on exercises, and also print is very necessary in the development environment irrespective of what you use Python for. So that's why I'm going to talk about print function at the beginning, even before talking about what a function is. Then I'll just touch base on input function, which is typically used to get user input by a Python program. After that, I'll go into control statements, wherein I'll talk about if statement, which is conditional statement, and loops like for loop and while loop, followed by function. And in function, I'm going to talk about function definition, what is a return keyword in function. Then I'll talk about function scope, and we'll conclude this particular section with function arguments. So let's start with setting up the Python interpreter and virtual environment. So what I'm going to do is that I'll set Python interpreter in PyCharm. So what is Python interpreter? So see, what we have done is that we have installed Python in our laptop. It can be Mac OS, Windows, Ubuntu, etc. And I installed Python 3.12.2. Your Python version might be different, that is fine. Essentially, we have installed Python in our laptop rather. And now what we'll do is we will create a virtual environment using PyCharm. So if you remember the diagram at the beginning of section 1, I talked about virtual environment. So what is virtual environment? A virtual environment is created using the main installation that we have done. So in our case, the main Python installation is 3.12.12. And I'll create a virtual environment using this Python installation, which is version 3.12.12. And on top of this virtual environment, I can create PySpark, I can create Apache Airflow, etc. Now, the thing is that this virtual environment would be created inside of something called a project folder. Now, project is a concept of Python interpreter, which is PyCharm. This is not a Python concept, it is a PyCharm concept. So we'll be creating a project folder and I'll name it as 3IAM Python project, and inside of it I'll create a virtual environment. And using that virtual environment, I'll be installing maybe PySpark or Apache Airflow or any other libraries that I want to install. Now after that, I'll code these programs like python basics.py, python advanced.py, etc. And all these would be created inside of this 3IAM Python project. These codes would be able to use the additional library that we have installed using this virtual environment also. And this PySpark and Apache Airflow would be accessible only to these programs, not to any other virtual environment, because this virtual environment is a container within itself. So the folder would contain the virtual environment, and using virtual environment we can install various libraries, and the codes that we write inside of this folder using this virtual environment can use these libraries. But other virtual environment, if you want to create, those cannot use these libraries. For those, we'll have to install the libraries separately. But at the end of the day, this virtual environment is using the main Python installation that you have done, or the main Python deployment. But the libraries, additional libraries, will not be installed in the main Python deployment. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So this is my PyCharm environment. It is the community edition, and it is talking about selecting a project, and I'll not use any one of these projects. What I'll do is that I'll create a new project. So this is the project, and here this is the folder of the project. And what I have done is I have created a folder called 3IAM folder or 3IAM folder, and currently this folder is empty, and I'll create the project inside of this folder. Now, concept of folder is similar in Mac and Windows. and Linux. In Linux, it is called directory, by the way. But anyway, I have created this particular folder and I'll put the project in this folder. So let me go ahead and select the folder that I have created. And this is the folder, teenayam underscore folder. So I'll use this and then I'll create 3IAM Python project inside of it. Now there are two things. First is interpreter type. Do you want to use a virtual environment specific to this project or specific to this folder, or you want to create interpreter using conda? I do not have any conda yet. And then custom environment, we can create a custom environment also. So I'll not use any custom environment. I'll create a virtual environment in this particular folder. Now one thing is that I do not have this Python installed. So in Mac, we use which Python command to find out where Python has been installed. So this is where Python has been installed. In Windows, it is typically installed in program files. Under program files, you'll get a folder called JetBrains, and under that, you'll find the Python folder. So I'll select this folder, which is the one that is being shown here, and I'll select. Now what it will do is, it will go ahead and create a virtual environment. The moment I click create, so PyCharm is creating the virtual environment for me. So as you can see, this is the folder which has been created, and inside of this folder a virtual environment has been created also. It has the binary library, etc. Right now, if I go to this teenayam folder, I'll see 3IAM Python project, and here I should be able to see the virtual environment. I'm not able to see it right now because that is a hidden file. So that's why it is not showing me the venv folder name. Okay, so once this is done, what we'll do is that we'll create Python files. But before creating Python files, we'll have to see whether the interpreter is correct or not. So what you can do, you can go to this particular gear knob and click on it, and then click on settings. So here you can actually type interpreter, and it is same in Windows also. So here it is showing Python interpreter. You can see what is the Python interpreter for this particular project, and this is the actual interpreter. So it is showing you what is the interpreter that it is using, which is basically the virtual environments by Python binary that has just been created. In the interpreter also, if I want, I can create or install package. So let's say if I want, I can install Airflow also, and you have to refresh it at the first time. And if I type, let's say Apache -Airflow, so this package would be installed. Now the thing is that I can install packages using the ID. I do not need to use the pip command. So if I click on install package, this particular package would be installed. And so once it is installed, we'll be able to see this Apache Airflow here in this particular box. And we'll be able to see this in the folder also. I'll show you once the installation is done. So it says that package Apache Airflow installed successfully. I can close it, and then I can see all the packages that have been installed as part of Apache Airflow. So these are various installations like Flask, Jinja, etc., which are fine. And essentially what it has done, it has installed Apache Airflow package. And we can see this in the interpreter window. So we'll have to type interpreter and click on Python interpreter, and you'll be able to see this. Now let me press OK here. Now if I go back, and inside dash packages, we'll see all the Apache Airflow installations that have been done, which was not there earlier. Anyway, so this is how you can install various libraries, or else you can use the terminal also. For example, you can click here and it will open a terminal, and I can type, let's say pip3 install PySpark. So what it will do, it will install PySpark, and currently there's no library called PySpark here. So let me scroll down. So PySpark is not there right now, and once this installation is done, as you can see, PySpark has come also. If I go to the Python interpreter window again by clicking settings here, if I scroll down, I should be able to see PySpark somewhere here. So as you can see, PySpark has been installed as well. So we can use either the IDE to install packages, or you can use the command line also. Now this is the terminal, and let's say you want to clear the terminal. You can type Control L, which will clear the terminal. And if you want to remove the terminal, just click on it again. So it is done now. So this is how we do the setup of PyCharm. We created a project folder. Then inside of that project, we set up the Python interpreter, and then we created a virtual environment using that interpreter. So the next step that we have to do is that create a Python file where we'll write our code. How do I do that? We'll have to create that file inside of this folder only, because what is happening is this particular folder, which is our project, will be using the Python binary which are there in this virtual environment. So all the files, all the Python files rather, that you want to create have to be created inside of this folder. So you can do a right click and then click new, and these are the various options that I talked earlier also. And I want to create a Python file, and I'll name it as Python basics. So now click enter, and it has been created and it has been opened here also. So this is a clean slate. We have completed our setup using PyCharm, and now the next step is to go ahead and write code.